I'm Roger Black. I started working with Jim Parkinson in the 1970s, around 1976, after I got to Rolling Stone. I was hired in 1975 by Jan Wenner at Rolling Stone to be the assistant art director, and with the definite assignment to come up with a typeface for the magazine. This was an idea that had been done a lot in the 1920s and earlier. Many newspapers and some magazines had their own typefaces. It goes back to the early days of printing when an individual printer would make their own typefaces. But after 1929, the custom was too expensive. People stopped commissioning original typefaces for publications, and the idea had been forgotten. But Jan Wenner had heard about Times New Roman, and he wanted his own typeface for Rolling Stone. And it became my job to figure out what that should be and how to go about it. And I didn't know that much more than Jan did, but the thought was that I had worked on a weekly newspaper that had converted to phototype, and we had gotten in touch with Linotype and Mike Parker to make some typefaces that would work on our machine that we wanted, that weren't yet available in phototype. So I knew it was possible to communicate with these guys, and I ended up going to Monotype and Linotype. But one of the more interesting people that I talked to in this search was you could say it was the great Dan Solo. It was Dan X Solo of Oakland, who had a wonderful little type shop called Solo Type. And he specialized in typefaces from the 19th century, beautiful old wood type. And he was the great Solo because he actually was a magician before he became a typesetter. And I was talking to Dan about how do we get somebody who understands not only conventional or classical text typefaces, but somebody who has some of the 19th century feeling that had become very popular again in the 60s with like the Grateful Dead posters or the Fillmore West posters that was part of the spirit that Rolling Stone had emerged from, having started in 1967. So I was looking for an interesting balance, somebody who knew how to who knew what the 19th century wood type poster types would be like, but also who could do something that was more classical, that would last for a long time. And Dan said, you should get Jim Parkinson. Jim lived in Oakland. He was a lettering artist. He had done some of these posters for some of the music in town, and had worked around doing some lettering, and he knew a little bit about how to make an alphabet that would be used for a font. And we started talking. This was not a text font initially. The idea was that we would just make 2-inch strips that would be used on the phototypositor machine, the VGC phototypositor. And the phototypositor was a kind of ubiquitous advertising typesetter which would make headlines that you would paste up for offset. So Parkinson started drawing this type in 1976, I guess, he started, and by 1977 it was pretty much complete. This is the typeface that you can find at FontShop called Parkinson.